it left that hole, but look at all that erosion there on the side. I mean, again, this is just someone who's in that area that shot video on their cell phone, and you see all that erosion from the sided mountain. That is totally separate. The spillway's up there on top. That's what looks almost kind of like Niagara Falls. It's just, as we were saying earlier this week, that spillway pretty much broke off completely, and there was some concrete going down into the river below. But you see that erosion even just a few days ago on the side of the mountain. You wonder what's happened now under the emergency spillway.
This has been a very sensitive situation, and they've had officials on site ever since I can remember when the news broke on
Emergency spillway that was used just yesterday to release some of the water from the Oroville Dam has eroded so bad that they are expecting it to fail within the next hour or so.
Yeah, right now you are taking a look at video, not of the emergency spillway, but the other spillway where there was damage there reported on Tuesday, and DWR officials have been on site just kind of monitoring the situation. Here we go. This was the emergency spillway that was activated yesterday for the first time in its history. Lake Oroville has been filling up pretty quickly because of all the rain that we've been getting over the course of this whole month. So that's why they had to basically activate it, and all the water you can see there is spilling over, and kind of at the bottom of your screen you see that there's a bit of a basin.
Okay.
Water has been catching there, and it's been probably 24 hours since it's been activated. Well, actually a little bit more than that. And what's interesting is that yesterday DWR officials have been giving us an update on the situation. They said there was no risk to the dam. There were no problems for us to kind of heed the warnings from law enforcement officials who all have word of this right now.
We also have some information about an evacuation shelter. If you are being evacuated from Oroville, the emergency evacuation shelter is located at the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds in Chico. That address real quick, 2357 Fair Street in Chico. They want everyone to get out. They have not told us. With uncontrolled amounts of water, you see erosion already happening. This is from a viewer yesterday that sent us this video, and you see it just crumbling off the sides of the river there. You think about the force, the power of that water coming down. You can see it right up top where it's all kind of spraying off. That's the spillway. And so as it makes its way to the bottom, it's carrying with it not only rocks and trees, but big pieces of...
Looks like Live Copter 3's getting close to where that is taking place, and you can see right now from that vantage point, the auxiliary dam or the auxiliary spillway is got a lot of water coming over it. Again, you saw those videos. All the video that we've seen up to this point was from yesterday morning. And so now you can see that there's a lot more water going over that auxiliary spillway, and it's made its way to the left of that. That was a parking lot earlier, and now that has all been filled, and a lot of water is coming through that area. It's starting to make its way, it looks like, up and then over just outside of where the auxiliary spillway is, and maybe that's where they have concerns. That would all that water coming through, that's the spillway, and then you have the auxiliary spillway. And again, we'll just have to wait and see, and hopefully we'll get a report from them soon as to what the big concern is, what's going to be the structural problems that they could run into, and the possibility of knowing how much water could possibly make its way into the Feather River.
And then just to be clear, Dirk, once it goes to the Feather River and keeps going downstream, where does that connect in? Because that obviously affects all sorts of people downstream.
Yeah, well, that's going to connect in with the Sacramento River. And so if you have a lot of water coming down the Feather River, that's going to put pressure on the system. And again, the Sacramento River, that's like the main artery of all the water that's coming down the Sacramento Valley. All that water feeds into the Sacramento River, and then that Sacramento River then feeds into the Delta region and then out into the Bay Area. And so all the water has to come through that one point. And if you're having one of these side rivers that feed into it, put a lot more water than was anticipated, you have to also then slow things down at other reservoirs as well, because you have a huge reservoir like Lake Shasta that is also very close to being full. It's up over 97-98% full right now, so that's a lot of water in there, and I'm sure they're very concerned, and they want to get a lot of their water out too in anticipation of the coming storms. And so you have the water that
I mean, the force that is coming down on this hillside. And again, this is the emergency, the auxiliary. This is not something that they have ever had to use in the 40 years that this dam has existed. So this is totally new territory here, and it's even though they have carved in part of the mountain, they've carved in away some of the trees and the rocks, it's like there's a new river down this direction?
We're just getting word that DWR officials are going to be hosting a press conference here in the next 20 minutes or so. But around 4:37, just looking kind of at our timeline, was when they originally announced that the structure of this emergency spillway could potentially fail. We're kind of hitting that mark right now. So right now we're just seeing a ton of water just pouring through. But for us, we're not the experts, so we're not exactly sure what the failure is. We're just told that right now it's eroding.
Okay, that's the area that's been built to do that. Even though it hasn't done it in its lifetime, it's built to do that. I think if I were to guess, again, maybe to bring about a little bit of ease to this situation, is you can see there to the left, it's going to be that corner. As you can see, it's gone around the auxiliary spillway and is starting to make its way from that parking lot area through. And I think if I were to guess, that would be the area of concern, because they don't know what's going to happen in that situation, because it wasn't designed to do that. And so that may erode away part of the wall right there. That may be the point of concern. And so we're going to find out, like was mentioned, in about 20 minutes when they brief things. But again, if I were there, that would be my area of concern. And you can see that water just spilling through there, and there's just nothing really. It's not built for that, I guess you could say. While the rest of the structure was built to have the water come over it, that would be the area that would be the weak spot. That more than likely, again, my guess would be that would be the area of concern. But we're going to find out more and get the exact details, of course, within 20 minutes. But just look at all that water coming through and making its way through the parking lot and down towards the catch basin that they have there at the bottom of the river, and then out through it to the Feather River in that area. But again, a lot of water coming through. There's at least a foot of water coming over the auxiliary spillway right now. Now the level of the lake is starting to drop, but there's a lot of water still in there, and all that has to come out. So if you take a measurement of a foot of water and spread it out over the whole reservoir, that's the amount of water that needs to come out before that auxiliary reservoir, that part of the runoff is going to stop, and that'll work as part of the dam and holding back the water. So the auxiliary spillway is going to stay active, at least, especially if it's not even with a contained system that's out there, making its way through the parking lot and then back down the hillside there, causing a lot of erosion. But just some spectacular imagery there, and you can see just what they're up against as far as trying to hold back that water. And you can't in this situation. It's exceeded its capacity, and that's the problem.
Right there, Andrew, and we can just kind of see how that's come out, and it's just kind of flowing out into there, and then you can see some white water coming down there. Now that looks real small from here, but I can tell you when you look at it down there, that is really spilling. Now, here, let's give you some perspective. Go ahead and tilt up. I just saw something interesting, Andrew. Is that picnic tables right there? So that's picnic tables right there. So this could give you an idea of how large this area is. So let's kind of pull out from there, and we'll give you that kind of perspective of how much water is going down there and going over this area. And then keep on going over to the emergency spillway, and you can see how large an area this entire area is that's spilling water over here. Now I'm also looking out the window towards town, and I can see that the secondary reservoir down there, it's looking quite full as well. And should this surge down there, that might have a problem with it getting up to its level as well. I'm also seeing lots of emergency vehicles that are going through downtown. There are several helicopters out here from CHP and other agencies. They're all operating below me here, and we're all communicating in a safe manner here.
Dave, what does it look like? How that is all just draining and coming together there?
Well, it's draining and it's carrying debris. It's carrying a lot of mud. Let's just keep following the river. Let's just keep following the river towards town. Andrew, you can see mountains
out there as well, Dave, just kind of right by the water. Any structures in the way?
Well, this is a very deep ravine right here. So we're not really getting into the lowland. Andrew, can you go ahead and pan right and just kind of show downtown so we kind of get the lay of the land here? So we're going to follow the river down into the secondary reservoir down here. We can kind of see, so it goes, you can see this is a very steep canyon right here. This isn't really going to be the area that's so much of the issue, but as we go to the left in that bend, there's a secondary reservoir. You can see how high the water is up there and how much of a release is happening that. Now, the real area of concern is everywhere below this. So if you pull out, Andrew, and show the downtown area and how much or how high the river is in the downtown Oroville area, this is why the evacuations are happening. I can probably something we can't quite see through the camera, but I am seeing emergency vehicle flashing lights all over town. So I know they're really getting the word out to folks down there that they need to move to higher ground.
And we're also getting word, too, that there's emergency evacuation of the city of Marysville and Yuba County as well. This whole time we've been talking about from Oroville to Gridley, just saying that, again, like as Dave mentioned, the low levels around that river are going to see some real rapid river rises. But this is now affecting more than even the area of Oroville. As you keep following it down, you really can start to see how close some of these homes are.
Evacuation right there. So these are the folks that are evacuating right now. So quite a bit of traffic that is leaving town. These folks are heading to the north. As you can see, that road is getting quite clogged at this point as everybody is heeding the advice and getting out of town.
Having the rising water levels, everyone has been told to evacuate. This is the Oroville area, but the evacuation orders extend from Oroville to Gridley. We just got a notice about Marysville, Yuba County, also being told to evacuate because of the water that continues to rise. To go somewhere, so the water continued to pour out, and then yesterday was the very first time that emergency spillway was activated. It's interesting just being here yesterday and kind of following the story and just getting an update from our reporter yesterday, because there really wasn't a sense of fear that something like this could potentially happen, and now that we're here, it's pretty eye-opening, and it's kind of a scary situation.
So here we are, 5:46 on a Sunday, Dave. Usually you're showing us rush hour traffic during the week, and this is in Oroville. These cars are going. It is very eye-opening. We keep saying that because not only the rushing water that we saw from the emergency side of the dam that is just bursting with hundreds of thousands of gallons of water, but you look at all the people that potentially could be affected, and they're all trying to get out at once, Dave.
That is exactly what's happening. Folks heading to the north. Not a whole lot of cars heading to the south. Definitely not heading to the west because that's under evacuation as well. But we can see people are taking this seriously. They are leaving town. That's a good thing right now because we got the word out early and folks are taking it seriously and getting away from here. Now we'll go ahead and pull back out because I don't have much more flight time here. The sun is already set and we still need to get back to Sacramento. But let's take a look again at the dam. We'll zoom in on there and see what progress, if any, is happening over there. So it does look like everything is about like it was when we first got here. There's a lot of water coming over the top of the emergency spillway. The area of concern is off to the left there where the recreational parking lot has been, and that's where the water is spilling over there. And like we were talking about earlier, not designed to do it. More traffic backup from lights. You'll see that there are emergency vehicles guiding people out, telling them it's time to leave town. We have mandatory evacuations here in the Marysville area as well as the Oroville area. So I'm looking all through town. As a matter of fact, you can see the bridge between the counties over the river up and to our right, Andrew. So if you go in through downtown, off to the right, there's the bridge right there. And you can see both bridges are full of traffic as well. So everybody is heading to the north and to the east out of town here.
And Dave, also want to point out, we're getting all these evacuation orders. This is a fluid situation, a developing story, a breaking story, I should say, and this is coming from the Yuba County Sheriff's Office. So more communities added to that evacuation list. This includes Marysville, Hallwood, Olivehurst, Plumas Lake, as well as Wheatland. Marysville, Hallwood, Olivehurst, Plumas Lake, and Wheatland. And I'm sure that list will continue to grow.
And Dave, on a Sunday night, I mean, you're usually with us during the week and you see that rush hour here. See really just the impact that this is having all the way down south, as Mark showed us on the map. That we started out with a pretty serious evacuation order, emergency evacuation from Oroville to Gridley, and they were just talking about those areas there, and then it stretched to the city of Marysville, Yuba County, and then we got that next list that showed Hallwood, Olivehurst, Plumas Lake, Wheatland, Live Oak, Yuba City, Nicholas, and all communities in that Feather River, Yuba City basin, all right now under mandatory evacuation notices. So with all these folks getting out at the same time, you see emergency vehicles trying to help with